We go out to Alberta, Edmonton specifically, to talk with a proud Canadian and the coach of FC Edmonton, Colin Miller. Colin, welcome again, my friend.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
I couldn't be better, Colin. I'd like to have you on tonight to discuss a specific topic, and we really appreciate you joining us. But before we do that, Colin, let's talk about the player of the week on your squad, Lance Lang, and how great an honor that was for him. Talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, he's had a terrific 4 or 5 games for us, Anthony. We moved Lance from left back to a wide left midfield area of the park because he's really enjoying going forward. It comes naturally to him, and he's really relished in that wide left role, and he's been in the heart of a lot of our attacks and has scored a few goals and has had 5 or 6 assists now. So absolutely delighted with the big fella, and hopefully it continues.
You know, Colin, I had on Simone Bracalello of FC Minnesota United last week on, and Chris Nurse with Fort Lauderdale, and they swear that this NASL competition has gotten better and better in the last couple of years. You've been now here a couple of years. Your thoughts on how the competition has been?
Yes, I totally agree with the guys, because there's a bit of money being spent within the league, within certain teams in the league, that there's some new ownership coming in, Anthony, and a little bit of ambition shown by a lot of these owners, and absolutely delighted, because what it has done is raise the level of the second level, if you like, of professional football in North America. So that can only be a good thing.
Well, let's talk about the level and the reason why we got you on here tonight. It's a level that all Canadian young players, coaches would love to see once again. It's a real Canadian soccer league based coast to coast, something that you know quite well of. A Toronto Blizzard you played with as a youngster, and the league was based from coast to coast, Colin, from the Victoria Vistas to the Nova Scotia Clippers. How important is it, Colin, that Canada once again gets its own professional league coast to coast?
Well, I definitely agree. I think that, you know, the Canadian Soccer League that I played in, as well as the North American Soccer League with the Toronto Blizzard, the Canadian Soccer League was with the Hamilton Steelers. But that league served such a terrific purpose. There were so many players that came through that league that went on to a higher level of professional football. And the key to the whole thing really was the success that our national team was having. I was actually thinking about this conversation we are going to have earlier on in the day, and you know, Bob Lenarduzzi was very successful as our national team coach, and he was the recipient of guys that were playing regular first team football. And some people criticised the CSL, but I never did, because you know, I was fortunate enough to play with a terrific owner, Mario Di Bartolomeo, as well as some terrific players. But what it was, it gave the guys an opportunity to train at a first team level, a professional level, on a daily basis, and that can only be a good thing. So if we can ever get back to that again, I'm 100% behind it, Anthony.
Paul Pescasolido joined me last week live from England, Colin, and he says that it is vital and key for Canada to get its own professional league. And we talked about MLS when it started really was there to cater and help the American player. He also pointed out, Colin, I'd like to get your opinion on this, that it's also important for the young Canadian coaches to have a place to work and develop as coaches. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Pes doesn't know very much, because I mean, I've got a hump on my back from carrying him all the way through his international career, but he did very well when he was at Boston. I'm only kidding, of course. I agree 100% with what Pes said. A good friend and an excellent player for Canada. I think that there has to be more opportunities for our Canadian coaches at the professional level. We have to try to open some doors, give guys an opportunity to, even if it's starting to work with some of the professional academies that we have throughout the country. I think we sometimes, well, and very often get overlooked as Canadians with regards to working at the professional level. So this sort of thing, this sort of league that we're talking about, would certainly, I would like to think, give these coaches, ambitious coaches, not everybody wants to work at this level, of course, Anthony, but the guys that are committed to working at this level of the game, if there was a Canadian league below the NASL, I think that would be a fantastic opportunity for these guys to get the chance to do that.
Now, Colin, John McGrain, who you know quite well, was on last week as well, and we brought this up, and Paul Pescasolito agreed with me, John McGrain disagreed, where we talked about having a maximum of 2 designated players per team, and John said no, there needs to be more than that to help out these young Canadians. Where do you stand on that, Colin?
Well, John McGrain, if I remember rightly, supported Hibernian, and anyone who admits that is definitely is a lack of knowledge of the game. And there's another wee joke for you there.
You're on fire tonight, Colin.
Absolutely, I'm on fire. It's fantastic. Glasgow Rangers are back winning again. The Eddies are winning, so life is very good for Colin Miller. I think that when I played in the North American Soccer League, the old North American Soccer League, Anthony, there had to be 3 North Americans on the field at all time. And I totally agreed with that, and I still agree with that, because that gave Colin Miller the opportunity to get the chance to play first-team football. If it had been no North Americans, then Bob Houghton would not have been under any pressure to play any Canadians or any Americans, for that matter, in the North American Soccer League. So I tend to agree that there should be more players. I think 3 should be the limit, because we have to have Canadians or Americans that are good enough to play at that level of football. Just because there's a number put on it, sometimes there might not be enough Canadians to fulfill that. That's the reality of the situation that we're in. But I think 3 would be a very good number, Anthony, and not just putting guys on the bench. The terrific thing about the North American Soccer League, as I said, mate, was they had to be actually playing on the pitch at the time. So I was in favour of it. I'm still in favour of it.
Let me get your thoughts on this, Colin. I've been doing a number of games this year in the new League One semi-pro league in Ontario, where TFC has their academy team in there, and they have been lights out fantastic. And what I noticed was this, Colin. I truly believe in my heart of hearts, there's a couple, if not more, guys ready in League One on each and every team that are ready for that next jump, but aren't possibly ready for the MLS. Is it important that, there is a league there that's somehow sandwiched in between the NASL and MLS for these players?
Yeah, absolutely. The more opportunity, Anthony, that players have of competing against the very best week in and week out, that's how we're going to get development. We have now here in FC Edmonton, we've had a terrific academy, as you're well aware, Anthony. Jeff Hollis, who's my assistant, did a great job in the first couple of years with the academy, and we brought 4 young guys through and are part of our first team plans moving forward. Those young players, now the academy that we have at the moment actually plays at the 2nd level of senior football here in Alberta. Only because of course they can't play at the top level. It's very expensive for us to travel into Calgary, blah blah blah, and also they don't allow players under the age of 16 to play at that level. So the level that we're in at the moment, we can play 16-year-olds in that league. So that gives them the younger guys, it gives them an opportunity to play in a competitive league game at least once a week. So we sometimes are guilty of developing training ground players. Monday to Friday we train them during the winter time, and there's no game in the Saturdays, and that's what's sort of holding us back a little bit as well. But I think that that all the professional clubs deserve a bit of credit, I think, Anthony, because and these leagues, I'm not privy to the information in Ontario, so I don't know what's going on there. But if there are guys playing and they're playing against like-minded players, being well coached, I think it's nothing but success for us.
Wouldn't it be more vital that for this young Canadian player that's ready to make that next jump, instead of making his way to Scandinavia, to stay home, to play with the FC Edmonton squad or Ottawa Fury or a new Canadian professional league, Colin?
Well, I think that, I look at Colin Miller as an example, because I've been there and bought the T-shirt at every level. I came through I wasn't coached until I came to Canada at 10 years of age, from Scotland obviously, and I was given that opportunity, but I think these young guys now, they need a place to play, and if they get that, we're on to a good thing. But they have to be ready. They have to be, it's easy to say that we have to win games. I'm in a business of winning games, or else I'll lose my job, Anthony. So it's not quite as cut and dried. But if the development that's going on at the moment continues, I think our national youth teams, who are going to be the ones providing players for our professional clubs and vice versa, I think we're on to a good thing, but we're just going to have to be patient here for the next little while. But I really do see progress.
Colin, how important is it that we put a cap on each and every team in this new Canadian Soccer League if it kicks off in the next couple of years? Because when I had the opportunity to work with the North York Rockets the couple seasons, in my opinion, I worked for one of the best owners in that league, Tony Fontana, who treated it as a business. Unfortunately, not all the owners did back then, and that's why I think the CSL failed. Your opinion?
Sorry, Tony, Anthony, sorry, the first part of your question cut out on the phone here. Could you sort of repeat that, please?
Sure, Colin. I was saying back in the day when I worked with the North York Rockets, we had one of the best owners in that league in Tony Fontana, and he treated his team like a business, not like a toy. Is it important that you believe that each and every club has a cap on their team so that they don't spend frivolously?
Well, it would be great if that was the case, but I think if an owner can, there's two sides to that, Anthony. If an owner can provide the funds to bring in a better quality of player, then what that does really, it raises the standard of the league. It raises the standard of the players that player is playing with. It also raises the standard of the player that he's going to play against week in and week out. It's kind of like, in my time in the Scottish Premier League with Rangers and Celtic, people thought, well, it's unfair because there's only two clubs really that are going to win the Scottish Premier League. But I'll tell you, what it did was, if those players, those clubs that could provide that sort of money, it filled stadiums with the quality of player that was coming in. It made everybody raise the game, and it made the smaller clubs, it made the other clubs try to invest a little bit more heavily in their team. But the other side of that, of course, is that some clubs may go in the way they did in the old North American Soccer League and throw absolute fortunes at it and get things back in return, and then next thing you know, the franchise is folded. It's just finding the balance. If you can afford to pay it, Tony, I think you should pay it. If you can afford not to pay it, then you try to get the best players that you can afford. It's just as simple as that.
Colin, last point, and then we'll let you go. We really appreciate your time. How important is it that each and every franchise that is awarded a license to play in this, let's call it the new Canadian Soccer League, has an affiliation with not one, but a number of youth clubs to help them in regards to season tickets, in regards to being part of that club to make it successful?
Well, I think any professional club should be working with as many youth clubs in their community as they can. I think it's the way forward. We try to do that here at FC Edmonton, where we try to not just isolate ourselves with one club. I think if you want to develop a fan base, you try to get to as many clubs as you can in your community. I think that, for me, would be the way to go forward. I think as soon as you just affiliate yourself with one club, it can get people's backs up, and they will come and support the professional club. So I think from a professional club's point of view, the more they can affiliate themselves with more people in their community, get the word out to more players, more parents, more coaches, then the better it's going to be for the club.
Last point, Colin, very quickly. Canada taking on Jamaica in September. First game for Benito Floro on Canadian soil. We're hearing all sorts of rumors and whispers that some guys that had said no previously to Canada possibly will say yes this time. I'm thinking of Fraser Aird, who you know quite well. And we're also thinking of some young guys who have now decided to make that commitment to Canada. How great is that to hear, Colin?
Well, it was one of my mandates, Anthony, as the interim head coach of the national team, was to try to get so some of our younger, high-quality players cap-tied, if you like, for want of a better word. And I'm absolutely delighted. I had the privilege of going out to Victoria to watch Rangers versus the Victoria Highlanders, and I actually spoke with Fraser before the game. And I know that he is absolutely over the moon. I said I was delighted for him that he had to play for our national team. And I think it's now going to be a chance for it's now going to be a chance for Fraser and like-minded young players to really buy into what we're doing in Canada. So all of the above that we're talking about, Anthony, comes into play there.
And it doesn't hurt that he's a Rangers player. Colin, listen, we thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us tonight. Good luck the rest of the season.